Hello everyone, welcome back in Hotel Mammon video lecture. Myself Arvind Chauhan, Assistant Professor, BBD University, Lucknow. I'm here to deliver a lecture on your food and beverage service, which is given topic. Hello everyone, welcome to the next video of your food and beverage service, alcoholic drinks. Your chapter name is alcoholic beverages, and in the first video you have learned about the what is a distillation process, how what are the kind of distillation process. All right, so in this video we'll learn about whiskey, production of the whiskey, and you also learn about the gin, production of the gin as well. All right, so I hope you have learned in previous video. Any queries you can call us at the time. All right, anything if you find from the previous video you can call us. I will tell you each and everything. Okay, so let us start with whiskey. All right, so whiskey is a spirit distilled from distillation of the fermented mash of grain, usually barley, with wheat, a mash, or a mixture of two, or a mixture of two. The grain used may be barley, maize, rye, wheat, or a mixture of grain is varying proportion, like a mixture of two. Yeah, we used to we should add the optimum amount. We should add a equal amount of two grains, right? According to the regulations which monitor the grain and its proportion and various processes in whiskey making, the mixture may contain malted grain, unmalted grain, or both. The distilled drink is then aged in wooden barrels, especially those made of the oak. The distilled drink is then aged in wooden barrels, especially those made of oak. These barrels may be new or used and charred or uncharred on site, depending on the types of whiskey being produced. Depending on the types of whiskey being produced. Here there is a word charred and uncharred. Charred means we have to caramelize the wood. We have to caramelize the wood depending on the various scales, like how much we have to char, so how much later we need to come into the whiskey. According to we have to charred and uncharred, right? Now there is a two meaning. There is two meaning of whiskey, like WHISKY, and another one is WHISKEY. There is two meaning of the whiskey. The initial stage of making whiskey are similar to the production of beer, except the addition of hops. Right? The fermented liquid is then distilled in pot or peat is still referred for pot distillation and patent distillation process. The most important point to remember is that the type of cereal or combination of cereal, distillation method, type of wood used for aging, period of aging, and blending process used in the production of vary according to the style of whiskey belong produced, and these greatly influence and character of the whiskey. Okay. Okay, let's say the production of the whiskey. First one is the screening and cleaning. We have to screen and cleaning. We have to clean the barley. Then the malting we have to soak into the water. Then it will dominate, killing and drying. All right, we have to take out, roast over the floor. Sorry, spread over the floor. Then kneading and milling. Then we have to grind whole material. After grind, we have to add some water. Then we do the fermentation. After the fermentation process, we have to do the distillation. In the fermentation process, this is still the similar like a beer. All right. After fermentation, we have but is beside we don't need to add hops on it. Okay. After the fermentation, we have to do the distillation. Whether you go for the pot or the patent. Again, I am telling you, patent is also known as a continuous or Nescafe its methods. All right. After the distillation process, maturing. After the maturing, you have to do the blending and dilution, cold adjustment, and then bottling. All right. Okay, just a brief about the stuff of making whiskey, production of the whiskey. What we had to do on it, see, what we had to do on it. Grain whiskey is made from the mass consists of wheat or maize and a small quantity of malted barley. The unmalted cereals are mild and then steamed, so cooked to release the starch into the slurry solution. It is then placed in mash tun and malted barley is added with hot water. The mixture is mashed and brewed to got wort. Wort is then transferred to cooler to bring down the temperature. It is then directed to fermenting container where the yeast is introduced for fermentation. Yeast act on sugar and convert it into alcohol, resulting in crude alcohol of low strength called as alcoholic wash. Okay, the alcoholic wash is then distilled in patent distill, also called as continuous distill or Nescafe still. This process of distillation removes much of congeners. Congeners means impurities, making the spirit very light and mild compared to mild whiskey. It is then aged in oak cask for a minimum period of 3 years. Grain whiskey matured more rapidly compared to malt whiskey as it is light bodies. Many grain whiskey are malted as long as malted whiskey 15 to 21 years to be used in deluxe blends and bottle or single grain. Okay. Okay. So region of whiskey produced in Scotland. Like where we produce whiskey Scotland. Sorry, in these are the regions where you can produce the whiskey. Scotland, Highland region. The majority of Scotch whiskey distilled are closed as Highland. Around 80% of all Scotch distilleries are located in the region of it and produce Glenfiddich, Glenlivet, Glengrant, and other famous whiskey. All right. Next is Speyside. The area produces some of the finest malt in Scotland. This is due to the outstanding natural resources found in all around the world, around the area, you can say, right? Another is the lowland. These are the lightest and style and make excellent blending bases. Islay, the distilleries of the west coast produce some of the most fully flavored and peaty malt, after with hint of iodine and tar. This reputedly come from the local peat, creating from marine vegetable matter. That's all Iceland. Campbelltown probably home to the first distill in Scotland. However, only two remain and produce smoky whiskies in Campbelltown. Iceland. These includes all other Iceland scattered around the coast of Scotland. These taste salt or have a seaweed flavor. Right? Meaning of Scotch. By low Scotch whiskey means which has been distilled at the distillery in Scotland from malted barley to which whole grain or other cereal may be added. The meaning of the Scotch whiskey means Scotch whiskey distilled at the distillery in Scotland from malted barley to which whole grain or other cereals may be added. Distilled at an alcohol strength less than 94.8% by volume so that the distillate has an aroma and flavor of raw material. Okay. Again, the reason is matured is an excess warehouses in Scotland in oak cask of a capacity not more than 700 liter for a period of not less than 3 years. Bottle at minimum alcohol of 40% by volume. The quality and flavor of Scotch has greatly influenced by type of cereals used. Malted process, peat drying process, the quality of water, the year, the climate, the distilling method, and the skill of distiller are blended. Many countries try to imitate Scotch but are not able to succeed. This is primarily attributed to climate, peat, and very fine quality of water. Right? Moving to the next type of Scotch. Okay, so what are the types of Scotch whiskey are available? Malt whiskey is made from the malted barley and then double distilled in forest. Malt whiskey is made by the malted barley and then double distillation in the forest. Production: barley is malted by soaking it in water for about 2 days and then spreading it on the floor from germination. Barley is malted by soaking it in water for about 2 days and then spreading it floor and germination. During the germination process, the enzyme converts the barley starch into the soluble sugar. Germination is then started by cleaning. Cleaning is the process where you stop the germination process, right? The smoke of peat is the smoke of the peat contribute a unique character, and flavor to the whiskey. The dried malt is then crushed to extract the sugar. Peat is like a you have to it's like a chamber. You have to frame inside the chamber, and in over the chamber you have to spread your all the grains. That's called the peat fire. The dried malt is then crushed to extract the sugar. The crushed malt is placed in mash tun with boiling water and brewed to extract flavor. The resultant wort is then cooled and transferred to wooden or steam fermenting vessels where culture yeast is added. After culture yeast is added, you have to check the sugar and convert to the alcohol. That's called alcoholic wash. The alcoholic wash is then distilled twice in a pot still method. The spirit is then reduced to 63.5% volume by volume and aged in oak cask. Legal maturation of minimum 3 years. So the legal maturation is the minimum of 3 years. Okay. Brand names. What are the brand name of this whiskies? Single malt whiskies are Glenfiddich, Glenlivet, Glengrant, Glenmorangie, Highland Park, Jura, Macallan, De Bolwin, Cragmore, Cardew. These are the brands of malt whiskey, right? Okay. Now the grain whiskey. What is the grain whiskey? Grain whiskey is made chiefly from corn and wheat with a small percentage of barley and barley malt not distilled in a patent distillery. Production: made from mass consists of wheat or maize and a small quantity of malted barley. The unmalted cereals are milled and then steam cooked to release the starch. This solution is placed in mash tun and malted barley is added with hot water. The mixture is mashed and brewed to get wort. Wort is then cooled and then fermented with yeast, creating alcoholic wash. Alright. This alcoholic wash is then distilled in a patent distill, hence producing lighter and milder spirit. It is then aged for a minimum period of 3 years. Alright. So you have to age the minimum time for aging is 3 years. Grain whiskey matured more rapidly compared to the malt, which has which as it is light bodies. Grain whiskey matured more rapidly compared to the malt. Remember this point. Grain whiskey is uh, much mature more rapidly compared to the malt whiskey. Majority of grain whiskey is used for making blended Scotch whiskey. Okay. Okay. So now is blended whiskey come to the blended whiskey. A mix of malt and grain whiskies. Most Scotch sold in market are blended Scotch. Proportion of malt to grain whiskey is between 20 to 40%. The cheaper blend will have more percentage of grain whiskey. The blended must contain flavor consist of blended whiskey. Brands name are Johnny Walker, Red Label, J&B Rare, Valentine, Chivas Regal, Reward, Grant, Kutisar, Black and White, West 69 Teachers. The other blended whiskey. Now we're talking about whiskey from Irish whiskey. So Irish whiskey it is distilled in Ireland from the walls of malted and unmalted barley with some grains. The germination of grain is started by heating grains in kilning by hot air producing by anthracite coal. Anthracite coal. This is thrice distilled in pot still and matured for a period of 5 years. Irish whiskey is matured for 5 years. However, nowadays production by patent method. Brand's name blends Jameson, Blackbush, Power, Paddy, Tullamore, Miller. Miller is the Irish whiskey. Single malt, Bushmills, Lock single malt, the Irishman single malt, Tyrconnell, Burgon Legacy Irish single malt. Different between Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskey. See, check the spelling. Whiskey and the whiskey. Different whiskey and whiskey. Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskey. Check the spelling. There is a STEY. There is a STY. Cleaning done on the solid floor, no peat flavor. In many cases, triple distillation carried out. In the Irish whiskey, the triple distillation is carried out. Minimum a legal maturation period of 5 years, typically used for Irish coffee. This is typically used for the Irish coffee, right? Killing, killing. Okay, this is done. Okay, next one is American whiskey. All American whiskey are made from the cereal, generally a mixture of various grain of cereals, distilled. Most in patent is still at no more than 90% and aged in oak barrels, except for corn whiskey, which may not be aged and bottled at not less than 40% alcohol volume by volume. Bourbon whiskey. Okay, next one is the bourbon whiskey. It is named after the country Bourbon in Kentucky. Bourbon whiskey is uh, named after the country Bourbon in Kentucky. Produced from the alcoholic wash consists of corn, rye, wheat, and malted barley. The minimum corn to be used for this mixture must be 51%. Usually, the mass mixture consists of 70% corn, 20% rye, and 10% malted barley. It is distilled in patent still. So usually you have to mix 70% of corn and 20% rye and 10% malted barley in bourbon whiskey, right? It is distilled in patent method. Matured in charred new oak calls for minimum period of 2 years. Usually bourbon or aged for 6 to 10 years. The charred barrels contribute a special flavor to the whiskey. The main features of bourbon whiskey is both sweet mash and sour mash. Yeasting is done sweet mash. Use of freshly cultured yeast. Sour mash, at least 1 by 3/3 mash left over the previous fermentation so that each new batch is related to previous batch and develop more complex flavor. Okay. Brand name was the Old Forester. This is the uh, this one is the bourbon whiskey. Old Forester, Old Grant's Dad, Old Forester bourbon. Four Roses again a bourbon whiskey. Old Crow, Old Kentucky, Jim Beam, Kentucky Traven or the bourbon whiskey. Teenage whiskey. It is sour mash whiskey produced from mixture of grain consisting minimum 51% corn distilled in teenage. After distillation, it is filtered, seeped very slowly through vat packed with charcoal made from wood of sugar maple tree. The give it is softer, smoother character. Matured in new charred oak barrels. Most teenage whiskies are made from the mass of corn 80%, rye 10%, and ultraviolet 10%. Teenage whiskey is protected name for a sour mass of American whiskey. Brand name Jack Daniels, George Dinkel, Pritchard, George Dinker, and Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels is a teenage whiskey. Pritchard is a teenage whiskey, and George Dinker is a teenage whiskey. Now we come to know about the Canadian whiskey. What are the Canadian whiskey? Or is these are the blended whiskey using corn, wheat, and other grains with a very small proportion of rye for flavoring. These are distilled in patent stills. Blending take place before or during aging period. Maturation takes place in charred white oak barrels for at least 3 years. In practice usually mature for a minimum 6 to 7 years. These are excellent light bodies whiskey. Brand name Albert Premium, Canadian Club, Canadian 5 Star, Canadian 83, Crown Royal, Gibson Finance, Forty Creek, Walker Specials. So these are the whiskies in various countries and various types. Canadian, teenage, Irish, bourbon, American, single malt, single blends. Alright, so you have, I hope you are getting. So after this, we will learn about the gin. Okay, so moving towards the gin. Okay, so next one is production of the gin. See, gin is flavored alcoholic beverage produced from redistilling high proof spirit with juniper berries and other botanicals. Right? What is our gin originated over the 3 centuries ago in Holland when Franciscus de la Bois, Silas, professor of medicine in Holland, University of Leiden, mixed juniper berries and alcohol to cure kidney complaints. Okay, the word gin in an abbreviation either derived from the French word Genever or the Dutch word juniper, both meaning juniper berries. Okay, this is the gin is basically it is a then word is abbreviation either derived from the French word Geneva or the Dutch word Geneva. It means juniper berries. British soldiers took the drink before going into battle in the Netherlands, which gave them Dutch courage. Right? Then is another thing is the developed linking for the taste and took the art of making this spirit in England. By 18th centuries, gin became a cheap remedy for London poor and thrive. There was no control over the production of gin and was produced all over the London. The famous phrase come about because of cheapness of gin, drunk for a penny and did drunk for 2 pence. Clean straw or nothing. This is the phrase, famous phrase come about the cheapness of gin. Some employees even gave gin to their employees as a part payment of wages. Okay, so let's study about the style of gin. Dutch gin, Holland gin, Shenzhen gin, Geneva gin, Geneva gin, London dry gin, and English gin. So this is about the manufacturing process. Let's, what is it? It is basically the equal quantity of malt, corn, and rye are mashed and fermented. Okay. So what is the step is equal quantity of malt, corn, rye, and mash and then ferment it. Okay. After the fermentation process, distilled in pot distilling. Twice or thrice in pot distilling. Alright. After distillation, ready redistilled with addition of juniper berries and other aromatics herbs, right? After the distillation, then you have to redistill with the addition of juniper berries and other aromatic herbs, stored in glass and lens container and then bottled. Okay, characteristics of the gin is full bodies with clear and pronounced malted aroma and flavor. Not ideal for mixed drink cocktails as its own taste is predominant. Maturation is not required in it. Color is adjusted with caramel. It is best enjoyed straight and chilled. Bottle is stone cracked, excellent bar displays. Manufacturing process of London Dry Gin. Let's see. Wow, the classify the London Dry Gin is 75% corn, 50% malt, and 10% of the other fermenting process. Then is distill in patent is still 90% to 95% alum by volume. Dilution with distilled water 60%. Distillate in pod distilled with juniper berries and other botanicals. 85% to 90% of volume by volume. Dilution to marketing extent and above. Characteristics of London Dry Gin are originally made in and around London. Most English gin are still made there. Now it is a generic term. Dry gin, nothing as all gin are dry. It is colorless and light bodies. Remember this, the gin is a colorless spirit. It is used mainly in preparation of mixed drinks, cocktails also. What are the brand name of the gins are? Brand names Dutch Gin, Bock, Bolk, Colma, De Kolner, and Hoskamp, Jonga, Grand Jenner. London Dry Gin, both Gardens, House of Lords, Colwert, Tanqueray, Gilbey's, Beefeater, White Settle. So these are the London Dry Gin. If we come to the technical terms, juniper berries, it is a tree-odd shrub with small purple cones resembling berries. Alright? Natural spirit, it is highly rectified, congener and impurities free spirit. Slow is a term slow, it is a type of plum. Okay? Cafe still it is a continuous operating pair of series column. Okay? So for today's fine. Always remember the London Dry Gin is Beefeater and Tanqueray. Okay? Okay, thank you so much.